Touray, who was born in the Gambia and has achieved an impressive academic journey. He earned his PhD in history from the prestigious Obafemi Awolowo University in Nigeria, specializing in African history, as well as master's degree from the University of the Gambia. His scholarly contributions include significant works focused on Islamic militancy, economic change, and nation building in West Africa, which has been disseminated in various peer-reviewed journals. At the University of the Gambia, Professor Touray has not only functioned as a senior lecturer, but also has assumed several leadership roles. As I'm speaking to you, he's the current president of the Staff Association, University of the Gambia. Also, coordinator for the Master's Program in African History and the head of History Unit at the University of the Gambia. His commitment to academic excellence was recognized by the Student Union of the UTG in 2014. At the University of the Gambia, Professor Touray not only functioned as a mentor, and also he served as the friend to all the students that he lectured. Moreover, Professor Touray has been actively involved in various research and academic activities that extend beyond the classroom. His expertise has facilitated field research across West Africa, culminating in numerous successful field trips for students aimed at understanding the rich historical trajectory of the region. His research interests have led him to collaborate with international organizations and universities in West Africa. Professor Touray has also made a significant impact through his publications, including studies on Islamic statecraft and economic change in sub-Saharan Africa. His work is widely recognized as evident by his contribution to numerous conferences, seminars, both locally and internationally. In addition to his academic pursuit, Prof. Touray has been a vital member of various professional bodies focused on development of social sciences in Africa. He has further enhanced his commitment engagement through media appearance and guest lecturers aimed at educating the wider population on the Gambian history and contemporary issues. Today, he joined us to share his insight on the theme, the importance of culture in our society. And today, there is no better person to discuss this topic than Professor Essa Touray, a subject that he is passionately engaged in. We are excited to learn from his wealth of knowledge and experience. Please join me in welcoming Prof. Essa Touray to the stage.
First of all, on behalf of the Vice Chancellor of the University of the Gambia, on behalf of the Dean of the School of Education, and other deans in various schools, on behalf of the executives who actually invited me to come and deliver a lecture on this very important subject matter centered on the contribution or centrality of culture in our national development. I don't know what must have actually driven you to identify this topic of discussion or discourse, but the concept of culture should not always be in theory. It must be upheld and actually practically applied to be manifesting in your existence, in your every existence in life, because culture is the fruit or a very important element of human existence in society. Sometimes we are students in Africa, however, our life and our every existence, or the nature of our life or character of our existence in life, is not normally centered on our way of life, which actually constitutes culture. First of all, human society, or every human society, is given a cultural pathway. And that is why, owing to global contact with other world, Africa actually lost its culture or her culture. I told you over and over, in Africa in Global History 102, looking at or examining the evolution of humanity in the world, I told people, whatever people might have adopted today, they must actually attain the foundation from African people as black. I told you the first man, culture is produced and generated by the people according to what has been consciously invented for them as a pathway to life and existence. And the Almighty God create cultural pathway for every existence, for every race. And that is why, from the beginning of human being in the world, black people carve their own identity in the absence of other existing race in the world, or before other racial communities were, before they were actually extracted from the African race. Pay attention for you to understand the history of how culture emerged, how humanity can carve a culture, and how humanity can develop a culture, or adopt and develop a culture, and become an instrument of their civilization, and others will be depending on that culture in order to foster progress in their societies and communities. Well before our contact with the white people from the Western world, from the Asia and from the Middle East, whether from Islam and Christianity, we're talking about the genesis of cultures. Are you telling me that Africans were not actually in order, a well-structured societies, where they could not actually, out of their own cosmological consciousness of the existence of God, they can't carve name for them? Is the Almighty God Allah is our name? Almighty God is Allah. Is it in Arabic or is it our name? How many of them know, of you know, that when we talk about social existence, religion, or social way of phenomenon, religion is one. Are you telling me that the name God is new to us, or we don't have any name for God in our tradition? Thank you so much. Can you tell me one in Mandinka? No? No. So that is why this topic is to challenge you people. Why are you trying to celebrate or invoke culture today when you don't even know the Almighty God in your name? Why are you inviting me here? I am serious about this because no nation can be independent as people if the 90% of the nation is actually ignorance of the realities of their culture. And this is what is affecting this country on daily basis, where you have the intellect and you celebrate them as educated people. Not only that, you try to actually make effort to make sure that they normally actually man the governance of this country because of their certificate. But when those people don't even know anything, and that is why when the political revolution or change came in 2017, Gambia could not actually institute actually require reform because the intellectual circle that man the governance of this country, 90% of them were very, very ignorant in the cultural realities of the people. You want to talk about something? Yes. Thank you very much. Man in Mandinka mean God. Are you paying attention? Mandinkas, before the contact with Arab, they were calling their country. That is why, where they live in Western Sudan, they call the area Manding. It's not referring to a specific cultural people, but it is actually, it connotes or symbolize territorial area where the population live, who actually were the representative, we call them vicegerents. The connotation is that. So the word Manding is territorial, not actually existence, but it refers to territorial area occupied and inhabited by the vicegerents of God. Man mean God, Dim mean demi. So they understand that humanity is just a demigod on earth. Are we not the one? Are we not the one controlling all the animals in the world? Huh? Are we not the one who actually control the nation states, empires, state, and influence and dictate decisions and policies? Are we not the one? When the Almighty God says in the heaven, Mulku Samawat will add, that means the authority in this heaven and the earth. Are we not that in the world, human beings? That's why the Mandinka, in their cosmological understanding, they believe that the entire humanity represents the power of God, or whatever God that. That's why they call humanity Manding demigod. You are celebrating. Why can't you know why God is called in your language? That is why you as intellectual, we are giving you task. How did the people, Serere people, call God in their language? Where are the Sereres? Tell me. They call the Almighty God Roxanne. That is why the Sun dynasty among the Serere in the ancient Egypt and the Sar dynasty among the Serere, they were actually priestly dynasties. When we mean the priestly dynasties, we mean that they were the one leading their forces in religion. That's why you had 4 main pharaohs who came from Serere dynasty. Pharaohs. Pharaoh Sarateta was a pharaoh in ancient Egypt. Pharaoh Perubsen was a pharaoh in, and they were Serere, Pharaoh Sar and Pharaoh Sarateta. So it is a confirmation that we understand the Almighty God through our cosmological imaginations before our contact with Islam and before our contact with the European people. Not only that, pay attention, because religion is a pathway, is a culture, life of the people. And it was manipulated and utilized to harmonize the people from one place to another. As I was saying last time, Serere came from Sin. Pay attention. That is where you will understand transcultural movement of the people in Africa and other parts of African world. They came from the Upper Egypt. Where they came from around that end where they were ruling as pharaohs during the dynastic ruling. The place was called Sinai. And look at that, when they were coming to Senegambia region, they passed through ancient Ethiopia. They lived in Sudan, Tubidaro, finally Sin and Salum. Because of their memory of their cultural origin, and they were determined to memorialize their cultural origin, they said, we are not going to forget about our ancient region in ancient Egypt in Africa, which was Sinai. They named their present-day Senegambian ancient place called Sin from the name Sinai. And that is why they have Sin and Salum. How many of you is determined to know all these things? You asked me to come and actually address to talk about culture the way you dance, to talk about the way whatever. This is what is called the cultural origin of the people. And culture represents your every existence. And you are represented as diversity in every aspect of your culture. Let's go back to now. That is culture. Let's go back to politics. How are you? How is your culture represented in your politics? Are you paying attention? When you go to senior secondary school, first of all, when you are doing government as a subject, in university, political science as a course or discipline, first of all, there are conceptual terms, or the terms and the concept. First of all, you are introduced to understand government as a subject and political science as a subject. Not so. No African political scientist in the Gambia today who can tell you how we are represented in politics, not only in the scholarly or disciplinary politics here in political science. They teach you what is democracy. Are you paying attention? First of all, they tell you democracy came from two Latin, is it Greek or Latin word? Tell me if you are doing political science. That is, demo represent what? The people. Kratos, authority, not so. Are you telling me in Africa, before the white man created this concept to represent their constitutional democracy and mandate system, we don't have that in ancient Africa as a name? This name was created in Africa in our own language before even the Greek term was actually generated. In the ancient Mali, when Sunjata Keita was installed in power, the diversity, different people and different cultures and ethnic groups were brought together. They came together and established and designed a constitution. And they called that constitution Kuru Kang Fokao. What do you mean by Kuru in Mandinka? Kuru means the assembly of the people. Not so. Fokao means authority of the people. You will never understand how you become inventors if you don't know and learn about your country. That's why your politicians are lying. They don't understand anything about Africa. If you don't have the knowledge of self, you will adapt to people way of life in your political life, and it will be very, very difficult for you to be able to actually adapt, understand, conceptualize, and adopt it to reflect your existence for progress and development. And nobody ever told you about this. In Mandinka, Kuru, that's the word constitution in Mali. They call it Kuru. When you say Mandinka, Mali Kuru Tadane, which means that you are talking about the assembly of the people. Fokao means the authority. Like for example, Mansakundara Kao, which means that the authority of the state, the authorities of the government. But if you don't have knowledge of yourself, apart from one party in this country, the only one party that knows that have knowledge is PDOS. All other parties and their leaders, these are people who are ignorant of our existence in politics. You don't understand. Knowledge is key. Democracy as term is developed in the Mandinka, in Malian culture, and they give democracy a term in their own name. They call democracy Kurukang Fokao, the authority of the assembly of the people. That is why knowledge of self is important. If you don't have the knowledge of self, your parties will be led by ignoramus, and because of they have certificated masters, you may think they are angels when they don't know anything. They can't progress anything. Ideas and the condition that should actually change your life and existence is not known to them, because it's through your culture that is a pointer to your existence. It's a pointer to your existence. You need to understand diversity is nothing. It is never a constraint. The diversity we have, and today the problem we have as people, is because we were colonized by the people. And when you are colonized, three things that you lost in your existence as people and nation. you lost your cultural pathway. It is obliterated because your language is the cognitive foundation. In your existence, once your language is peripherized, that is, it is marginalized in your daily activities and life, you are nothing. Colonialism obliterated your language to be official and actually perpetuate their own language. So it's a vehicle of obliterating your existence and your life. So culture, number one, that is the threat of colonialism. The second one is political threat. Political threat. Colonialism never came here to unify the diversity in this country. It's not true. In fact, when you look at politically, Africa being matriarchal before, most of the leaders in this Senegambia region, Upper Gambia and part of Lower Gambia, were all led by who? Were all led by women in this country. And most of you doing development studies and gender studies today, because you fail to learn about your culture. You fail to learn about your existence, about your history. That is why they actually design a framework, and where they will actually make you to reflect on the exclusions of your gender in the society, just to perpetuate division in your society. Ask them whether the colonial system ever reinforced any women chieftaincy in this country. Have you ever had any women chief during the colonial time? Huh? Before you adopt this gender thing, why didn't you question that? Why didn't they do that? In the ancient Egypt, Ethiopia, in the Senegambia region, in fact, the four main areas in Yonu Bakindiki, the first queen was Mansa Adame, not so, Mansa Wame and others. They were women. They were ruling their controlled states, and they even incorporated male to be part of their rotational system as actual means of political alliance, where they created matriarchal, patriarchal political states in Yomi Bakindiki. So, in your cultural life, political, how do you see yourself in your politics? Not only that, Manfari Jadama was from where? The Mansar. Before the rise of patriarchal system in the Gambia, or before the expansion of patriarchal Mali, led by Tramagan Tarawale, Mansa Adame created the state of the Mansar. And subsequent successors or subsequent succeeding queens were able to incorporate Badibu Ilyasa, Jajari, and India to be part of the rotational system through intermarriages. Look at the political dynamics. You don't learn about these things. You don't talk about Jara. You don't talk about Kombo Sanyang. So when you think about culture, it is not about entertainment that you manifest. Every human being is born in a culture and tradition, not so. I remember when you are born, your father normally christen you, not so? Huh? You are Christian, or naming ceremony is organized as an event to celebrate your coming to the world. Just to tell you the hypocrisy of your organization today, the hypocrisy of what you organize for us when you are not dealing with directly in touch with culture. People will be gathered when they are organizing naming ceremonies to celebrate a coming of a new baby who maybe contribute to the development of this society. And this new baby will be a cultural ambassador of our cultural societies. What they do, before they name, people will pray first. Not so. The Jalis will come and say in Mandinka, Milo mi kadile. Not so. In the Wolof they will tell the same thing. Aiwa mi kadema. Not so. Number one. Number two, the elders will pray. Before they give you name, you have to give money to the Jalis for them to reveal the name of that child. Your child is born in that society, and you were all Christian in that way. Are you paying attention? Your father put you, your parents support you culturally. Your beginning in life You were positioned to reveal you to the world within the cultural context. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, the name is given to you, and they will see what Munko, what they call Munko in Mandinka. Not so. It's kind of a ground corn, not so, or cool seed in a ball form, not so, and seed among the people with coconut. That is your bad day that day. Look at the destruction, and not only a destruction, the stupidity that could be manifested in the life of Gambian intellect elites of our generation. When that child becomes 10 years, they are celebrating their birthday. Birthday is not bad. Instead of continuity in connecting that child to the traditional life in the celebration of the birthday, the elites who are who are mental slaves in this country, instead of going to the traditional life, food stock or whatever, you see them enter with their children inside the supermarkets. Who are educated in this country to rule this country? Tell me, your party leaders, are you talking about them? That is where a nation could be led to independence. Look at every educated person, including you people. Instead of calling a Korajali or Tama or Bukarabo to come and play for your child, to tell your child where you came from in the society, the contribution of that cultural society in the life of this nation. You can call a Korajali, if you are Tura or whatever, they will tell you something about your ancestry. How intellect and scholarship were manipulated by these people in their culture, not so, to lead the society through the pathway of God. You see, an educated person, people who said they are educated. You see them with their children inside the supermarket, try to order what? Cake, is that your cultural food? Is that your cultural food? That's why when you say that this party, when they told me that, some people are telling me, but this particular party has the capacity. I tell, what kind of capacity do they have? That is why you can see criminality in the life of your National Assembly members. People whose families cannot even afford 200,000 private cars. Their roads are bad. They are not good at all. These are the people who said they are representing in the genuine. They go and buy 3 million worth of a private vehicle. Which one are they going to use? So these are the people who are culturally dead. Pickup could be even better. You can travel with pickup also during the rainy season to meet your people. But you don't know how you are cheated. 90% of the Gambian intellectuals are culturally dead. Not only that, you celebrate the birthday of your children, and on the table, you sit at the table with the other children. You don't even actually tell them to say anything in English, happy birthday to you. You are telling me you are inviting me here to celebrate what? I am celebrating your hypocrisy today. I am celebrating your hypocrisy, and you're ignorant in this country. Because your father used Quora, they call the Quora and the Janis to celebrate you, to christen you. An intellectual, stupid person who is educated, our brothers, will bring a child, and that was the day he will actually launch. That day of your birthday celebration, it was actually the date where you actually launch or mark the beginning of a shift of from your culture to the Western man, and you still become aware. You rely on that culture. You are still colonized in the neo-colonialist framework. Tell me, that's why Gambia don't have revolutionaries. Pay attention what I am telling you. You cannot invite a Korajali during the birthday of your child. to narrate the story about the ancestry of the child. But you can tell your child, come today, while you were a Christian during the naming ceremony, it was a stupid culture. This is an insult to our fathers and our ancestors. That all what they organize, your modernity is confirmed by adopting the life of other people. And your modernity is confirmed by rejecting and insulting your cultural life. Well, you can see that 90% of the people are doing that. That's why in this country, you don't have intellect in this country. When you talk about intellect, this is called born muffin, two born muffin. Intellect is mine. Actuality, that's why they say intellectual. Your mind is connected to the realities of the society. If you are actually creating a condition where you generate or create a cultural shift of new generations from the pathway of their ancient or best cultures, what kind of intellectual are you? People memorizing this country, they don't understand anything. When I look at intellectual, I laugh at people, even in politics. That is why in ancient Egypt, Black Africa, in ancient Egypt, they never called themselves whatever they called themselves, Kemet. Let me tell you one thing. Although there is a big row in the town, there were people who were called Kemet. When you talk about the word Kemet in our African language during the time of the pharaohs, pay attention. The word Kemet means nation of black people. Listen to me. Mandinka they call Chakul Ke, not so. Mandinka word for Chakul is Kemu, not so. The word of name for Chakul is what? What is common there? Keke. That's why ancient Egypt, we were all in Egypt, we were speaking the language, differences and movement migration to develop different dialects. K represent blackness. Are you paying attention? That's why they call themselves K. Kemet means the nation, Net is nation, and K means blacks. The nation of the black people. For example, when Mandinka say Mofila, they refer to the nation as Mofila, not so, the people. La means territorial area. This is, if you don't know, try to read the history and culture to understand your existence. Dancing and whatever will never make you anything to be independent. With all this, when you go back, you adopt your child to follow the pathway of those who are responsible for every peripheralization in the whole system. You go and buy cake for them, just to say happy birthday to you. Your language is nothing in tradition. These are the intellectuals and the scholars who will change this country. You can't change your country if you don't adopt your development, your every aspect of the life of your people and existence according to the realities of their culture and tradition. I cannot actually keep you here today, but I believe that you understand the framework that I created for you. Before I end my speech, I would like to remind you that you are the first people on the earth, black man, I can tell you that. Are you paying attention? You are the first people on earth. Adama was a black man, hey, and Adama was created in the East Africa. And hey, Adama was created in Africa here. I am talking, please, can you pay attention? Adama was created in Africa here, in the East Africa. He was not created in the heaven, because there is no earth in the heaven, number one. And number two, at the time of the creation of Adama, there was no sunlight in Asia, there was no sunlight in Europe, there was no sunlight in every part except in the black Africa. And that is why the name, ecological name given to African people, it represents the weather and the climate. The Greek call Africa the place where there is absence of what? Coldness? Where there is absence of coldness, which means that Africa is full of heat. That's why, according to Herodotus, he said that the people of Egypt were actually black people. And in River Nile, a river Nile in ancient Egypt, it was flooding not because of the melting of the glass there, but it's because of the sunlight that kept it actually already melted. And in Europe and other parts of the world, at the time when everywhere was actually frozen owing to the deep experience of warm glaciation. The geographers are here. So that is why we were having the intensity of heat. That is why the color and the pigmentation became black, and we were actually endowed with melanocytes or melanin that can deflect the heat of the sunlight. So don't remove your black color simply because you think blackness is marginal in existence. Are you paying attention? So please pay attention and make sure that you focus on the culture. Read your culture as black intellectuals and see how you can actually adopt the realities of your culture in modernity. And you modernize with your culture also. Nobody owned technology. We were the first people to supply technology outside. And not only that, they all confirm in their books and the writings that everything they had, whether religion or whatever, was actually attained from Africa. Even Mecca as a sanctum, Kaaba as a sanctum precinct, was actually created by African women who got married to Abraham, whose name was Hajara from ancient Egypt. So, if you read Africa, you understand that our culture and everything is in the life of every people in the world. But because of the infiltration, owing to the envy of other racial regions from Persia led by Cambyses, the European and the Arabs, then we subject ourselves to this kind of peripheralization. We reflect on our history. And let me tell you one thing. You can use your history and culture to liberate yourself until you pay attention. You cannot liberate yourself as nations in Africa until and unless you move out to seek for knowledge in history. The Quran says that He takes all of us. Why can't you traverse through the earth and see the end of those who came before you? Why can't you traverse through the earth and see how I originate this world? In order to understand that Africa would have been the best place, was the first place where first human being was created. Travel to go to East Africa, travel to go to Egypt, travel to go to Ethiopia. And this was confirmed in their research. Don't think that you are peripheral to the extent that you reject everything you have and try to adopt the life and the way of life that cannot be actually domesticated here. Thank you very much for your kind attention.